Hi, welcome everybody to another weekly update of what's going on in New Zealand when it comes to traveling and COVID-19. If you're joining, thank you for stopping by, and please consider subscribing to our channel if you find any of this information useful. And so let's start right off what's going on this week. This week's been really busy. So let's see here, the TRAN-TASMAN travel, that's the travel bubble. The other item is manage isolation, NMIQ, the updates and what's going on with that. And Cook Island travel bubble, that's another topic that was busy this week. So we'll just jump right into it. Go back. There we go. Still learning how to use this thing. So the much anticipated start date for this travel bubble between Australia and New Zealand. So just to give you a little bit of quick rundown, anytime you come to New Zealand, which really their borders are still closed, you have to have a special visa to get into the country. You have to isolate, manage isolation, MIQ, for 14 days, and they're between 3 and 4 star hotels, and you have to pay for it. Well, one way they're trying to do away with that is by having this travel bubble. They've been talking about this for months. So this Monday, the Prime Minister of New Zealand was going to give an update and do an announcement when they're going to open up this travel bubble. But really, it was not an announcement. It was an announcement of an announcement, okay? So everybody was anticipating that she's going to come up with a date. That never happened. She'd start stalling again. And the big announcement this Monday was that April 6th is when they're going to do the other announcement when this bubble is going to open. So I think personally she's just stalling for time. She said about, Australia, their states, they're still working things out, and we've had 12 meetings, but really I don't think she's really wants to open this bubble, but there's a lot of pressure because of the economy and so forth. So now we have to wait until April 6th when she will give a hard opening date for this travel bubble. My take is that what I've been reading online, just this morning I read that Auckland Airport is already geared up to allow this bubble to happen. So what that means is they're going to have international flights, kind of like people coming from Asia or Europe or Los Angeles, North America. They're going to have a funnel through a different part of the airport, and then the people that are coming from Australia, they're going to be coming in through a separate part of the airport, because those people are not going to have to quarantine. And they just said they have this ready to go. And it's surprising that this is less than 6 days since the announcement came out about the announcement. So I'm not sure why the government is stalling. It seems like everybody's ready except Jacinda. So anyway, that's just my opinion. So we'll wait and we'll see what happens. The other big news that came this week was about managed isolation. I did a video about this, about how they're increasing the price for managed isolation and basically doubling it. So I think, for example, we have a family of 3. The baby doesn't count. We would have to pay $7,000 for spending 2 weeks in a hotel in New Zealand. Mind you, they give you food and you have guards, military, and police there to keep an eye on you. Pretty much a 3 or 5 star prison that you're in, depending what hotel you go into. But anyways, so what people have been doing, they're trying to figure out a way to not to pay these hefty fees. So before, you would if you were going to stay in the country more than 90 days, you wouldn't have to pay this managed isolation fee. And like I said, it's like for our family it would be like $7,000 US dollars. They increased that March 25th to $7,000. Before that, it would be about $3,400. So there was a lot of confusion about who pays, who doesn't pay. The best way that I could describe it is that if I'm traveling with my family, with my wife that's a New Zealand citizen, and the kids have their New Zealand citizens, we would be under the old structure, which is $3,400. If I decide to travel on my own, that'll be the new price structure, which is about 2,000 New Zealand dollars more per person for the first person. So I'm going to give a link and stuff to explain the different price breaks. But March 25th, they increased it. So student visas, they have limited visas, and they have working visas. All those, the price went up. And the way to get around that is if you stay in the country more than 90 days. Well, they just changed the rule. Come June 1st, you have to stay 180 days, which is 6 months. So when we found this out, we tried to scramble. We tried to find flights, rooms. We couldn't find it. The only room we could find for 4 of us is in April, which is next month. So, but carefully reading what it says is anybody that is traveling with a New Zealand citizen or permanent resident are part of the old fee structure, which we still have to spend, $3,400 for a 2-week stay in isolation. So that's kind of what the big news was for today, for this week. Why they're doing this is they're trying to cut down on people that are coming to New Zealand and staying 90 days and then flying back home and not having to pay this quarantine fee. And this is only going to affect, they say 3% of the people traveling to New Zealand. But really what the government is doing is there's evidence, I can't pronounce it, there's small evidence showing that people are trying to circumvent paying these hefty fees. So they're gonna, I think they're gonna make it tougher and tougher for people that come to New Zealand. They're gonna have to pay these hefty fees. Sorry about that. There's a little feed that comes up about my managed isolation. Now, the other thing that made the news, and this is the tail end, this is yesterday, by the way, today is March the 25th, 2021, Cook Island, and I'm going to kind of show you guys this little video where Cook Island is. It's out in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific Ocean. It's about a 3-hour flight from New Zealand. You can see it down there. It's actually a really beautiful island. It's part of New Zealand. And this is what it looks like. I had the good fortune to go there when my wife and I were dating back then. She wasn't my wife, she was my girlfriend. And on the way there to New Zealand, I did a layover for a few days. So it's a really beautiful island. Well, this island, it's pretty much a New Zealand territory. They have their own prime minister, but they greatly influenced by New Zealand politics. Well, they've been shut down for a whole year. No tourists, no nothing. And they've been talking since December to open up this bubble between Cook Islands and New Zealand. Now, a lot of New Zealanders travel up there for vacation. It's only a 3-hour flight. Well, they don't allow that. And even though the little country or territory is already set up for COVID, they have their testing, they have their facilities for quarantine if need be. There are no cases in New Zealand in the community of COVID, and there have never been any cases in Cook Island. They're still restricting travel between New Zealand and Cook Island people from Cook Island could travel to New Zealand, but not vice versa. So what's happening is because there's no tourists, people are actually just immigrating back to New Zealand, and this little island has only 14,000 people. Last year, 300 people left the island. Last month, 3,000 people left this island. This month was 500. So the population is shrinking because there's just no work. And they needed to get this bubble going like 6 months ago because the risk was so minimum. The Prime Minister Jacinda met with the Cook Island Prime Minister, and Jacinda told him, we're not ready. I know you guys are ready, you've been ready for 6 months, but we're still trying to figure out whatever. May is when they're going to open up the bubble, but they still didn't give a date, a solid date. So, meanwhile, Cook Island is struggling, and more people are going to immigrate to New Zealand, and it's going to be, once they find work here, it's going to take a while for them to go back to the island. Tourism is totally devastated. I heard there are some tourists that have been stuck there for a year because they can't get any flights out. So I don't know if that's actually a pretty cool, I don't know if that'd be that bad being stuck there. Looks actually really nice. It's actually a real cool island to visit. But anyways, that's what's been going on this week. I plan to do these every week to kind of bring everybody up to date. And if you're joining now, feel free to comment. I can't see who's online and who's not. So feel free to comment. I'll comment back. If you have any questions, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And thank you. And like always, have safe travels. And we'll see you next